Who's your top 3 artist? Who's your favorite artist? Who's the best artist in art history? I'm asked that question all the time, and it's always really hard to answer. I'm not going to attempt to answer that question because first we'd have to determine what makes an artist the best. Some might look at technical proficiency, some might look at who's the most popular, and some might look at which artist is the most influential. I met Gox recently. Hello Gox, hello Gox's father, and had an inspiring yet too short conversation on inspiration, on copying or stealing like an artist. Speaking of Gox. So we derailed on how artists will need to adapt to AI and how artists had to adapt as well in the past to photography. And I don't really remember why, but we brought up Henri Cartier-Bresson. He may not be my favorite artist, nor the best artist in art history, but I'm confident in saying that he's my favorite photographer and the best photographer there ever was. By the way, if I post this on the 29th of December, it's my birthday. So this video doesn't really have a thesis or whatever, but it's just me presenting my favorite photographer, Henri Cartier-Bresson. Most of the video will just be me presenting a lot of his pictures. So I hope you enjoy, and yeah, have fun. Cartier-Bresson was a rebellious teenager, and he spent his time reading and going at the Louvre or other art galleries. He'd attend surrealist meetings and hangouts and would associate with the movement. He didn't give many interviews, but in an interview he gave to the French journalist Michel Guérin in 1993, published in Visual Anthropology, when asked why he left for Côte d'Ivoire in 1930 at the age of 22, Cartier-Bresson answered, "Because I'm an adventurer and I was fed up with Europe. I learned a lot from my 2 years working at the painter André Lotte's studio, but got bored with his theoretical side. I hunted with a single-barreled gun, salted the meat and sold it. I made money but caught black water fever. They say 95% of people die of it. My urine was dark brown. The only medicine I had was for hangovers. Luckily, Dua, the black fellow I hunted with, knew his medicinal plants." Guérin then asked why, on his return, he destroyed all his paintings to take up photography. "I saw a photo by Martin Munkazi of 3 black kids jumping into the waves in the Congo. I said to myself, good Lord, one can do that with a camera. Munkazi's picture was like a rocket launcher that put me into orbit. Indeed, it's the only photo I have on the wall at home in my bedroom." Cartier-Bresson's trip to Mexico in the 30s would greatly influence him. He then photographed for the communist newspaper Ce Soir. Cartier-Bresson was a leftist, an anarchist more specifically, as he continuously repeats in an interview with Charlie Rose.
"I'm an anarchist."
An anarchist?
Yes, and anarchism is an ethic. For me, anarchism is an ethic. Ethic is important. Anarchism is an ethic. It's a way of behaving. I'm an anarchist fundamentally, and so it doesn't exist. For an anarchist, it is embarrassing.
I can't let you get away with this. Define anarchist for me.
Anarchism is an ethic.
Well, what's the ethic? You can define an ethic.
An attitude, a way of behaving, of acting and loving, finally.
Finally, about loving.
Absolutely.
He worked on an anti-fascist film during the Spanish Civil War, but it's in 1937 that he got his first photojournalist assignment, photographing the coronation of George VI and Elizabeth. In this series, Cartier-Bresson's originality, humanism, and anarchism shines. The series is called The Other Coronation and focuses on the people, on the cultural phenomenon of the coronation, rather than on the monarchs. There's a lot to say on this series: the reversal of power, the importance of the public's approval for the sovereignty of a monarch. But we're going to have to skip 2 years ahead, because that's when World War II started. Cartier-Bresson enrolled in the French army in the film and photo department, but less than a year later, he got captured by the Germans. He spent 35 months doing forced labor as a prisoner of war. He tried to escape several times, and on his third attempt, he was finally free. In 1947, alongside other photojournalists, Cartier-Bresson co-founded the legendary photo agency Magnum. With what I would qualify as an anarchist philosophy, Magnum was founded as a member-owned cooperative which, while all sharing similar philosophies, cultivate very distinct and strong personalities. He then traveled the world, taking some of history's most iconic pictures, and even speaking to Gandhi 30 minutes before his assassination, and being the first Western photographer to be allowed into the USSR after Stalin's death. Circling back to my conversation with Gox, I think the reason why we brought up Henri Cartier-Bresson was because even though he was recognized as the greatest photographer of the 20th century, he gave up photography in the 60s. He still took pictures, but he wasn't the photographer he once was. He decided to turn to drawing. When Michel Guérin asked, "What made you give up photography for drawing?" Cartier-Bresson answered, "The need to call oneself into question, particularly when one is well known. The danger of power. I'd said what I had to say. Derriade understood. Give up photography, you can only go downhill." Saul Steinberg wrote to me after my first show of drawings in Paris. He said he could see that photography had been a kind of stalking horse for the real thing, drawing. "Do you see the transition as a break?" asked Guérin. "In my view, it matters little whether one uses a camera or a pencil. It's the way you look at things that counts. It's just the instrument that changes. Photography is a marvelous way of looking which captures the immediate, the intuitive. Drawing is more of a meditation, a graphology. Do painters get criticized for doing sculpture? I drew from life, landscapes, nudes, still lifes. Real life is so much richer than one could ever imagine. I draw every afternoon, for as long as there's light." Earlier in the interview, he said, "Photography was like a pencil sketch done in an instant. In the end, I realized that photography was only one direction in life. There's the instant and there's eternity. To take is to grasp intuitively. There's no need to explain a photo. That's why I'm not interested in waffling on about photography. De Gaulle said, photographers should aim straight, shoot quickly like gunners, and get the hell out. We've seen enough of you." How right he was. I adored Degas, Bonnard, Matisse, Goya, and Velázquez of the Maids of Honor. I've always lived in that world, as well as others, but not particularly in the world of photography. Photography is a marvelous instrument, but only an instrument. Henri Cartier-Bresson evolved in a world where photography still needed to make its place in the art world. Perhaps that affected the reason why he sometimes seemingly dismisses photography, despite being a great photographer, the greatest photographer. Cartier-Bresson called his photojournalist colleagues thinkers or adventurers, and when Charlie Rose asked what he was, he answered an intellectual.
Un intello.
But Cartier-Bresson, aside from being an anarchist, was an intellectual, sure, but I think the word that would describe him best would be an artist. He wasn't merely a man with a camera, but a man with a camera who read extensively, who had studied visual arts, who had artists as friends, who traveled, who had political convictions and ideals, a man who engaged with the world. And this engagement with the world, which is made powerful and meaningful because of the man's vitality, is witnessed through his photos. Thank you so much for watching yet another video. It's funny because after I say that I'm going part-time, I take out 2 videos in 2 weeks. But I don't know, it's Christmas break and I had time. It's also my birthday today. Well, when I published the video, so I was like, why not? I could make a video that I would enjoy, which is a video on Henri Cartier-Bresson, which I love. Yeah, I'd like to thank well, I'm going to thank my patrons. First, I'm going to thank Roman Brandel, X-Towns Jeff, and all the other patrons who support the channel. There's been a lot of patrons who've been added ever since my 2 latest videos, which had a lot of positive feedback, surprisingly, because they're very different. They're still both on art, but they're very politically motivated, I guess. And the response to them were amazing. So yeah, I'd like to thank people who comment positive things mostly. Yeah, and I really like this new space. Sorry, the camera stopped recording. I really like this new space, and again, there's been comments about this new space and people enjoying it. I improved it a bit since last time, so I hope you enjoy it. Anyway, thank you so much. Have a great new year and stuff like that, and see you in 2025.